Hi, I'm Maneki Nippon, and I'm sorry if I look a little bit tired, because I am, but I just wanted to make a quick response to Christine Peace's video on feminism, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. I do have a couple problems with it, but it has nothing to do with what she said about transnational issues on dealing with trafficking in persons and so on. But I'd like to kind of elaborate on what I mean by that. Trafficking in persons, and it's not just women, it's not just cultures of people, and there has to be political will in the countries, the third world countries, just as much as the first world nations when it comes to trafficking persons, because that's the only sure way to enforce international laws and treaties mandated by the United Nations and other places. The problem with trafficking in persons is, number one, there has to be political will, and there also has to be willing participants. You know, if the local culture is not necessarily for giving women rights, like in Middle Eastern countries, excuse me, then it's going to be very difficult to enforce it in that land. And I don't think there necessarily needs to be a feminist revolution in those countries in order to achieve such a goal. But that's what Christine's justification is, in her own words, why she still considers herself a feminist. Because the equal rights don't exist in other places outside of Canada and the United States. And I'm like, well, I actually don't have any problem with that. But again, I don't think it's necessarily a feminist issue. There are trafficking persons not just for girls, but for men as well, for boys. You know, they'll traffic little boys so they can do some of the worst things humanity can ever do to somebody who can never consent to the acts that they do. So it's a terrible tragedy. But at the same time, my point is, it's not a gender issue, and that's exactly why I call myself a secular humanist. And this is why I think Lacey Green's a little bit flawed in her arguments in her 3 feminist videos that I caught her, you know, using these facts and little things that, you know, little snippets and, you know, this is what I think about, you know, feminism and so on. At the end of one of her videos, she says, well, the secular humanist or egalitarian argument is null and void because it doesn't specifically address gender issues. And it's like, well, the reason it doesn't is because it's not supposed to. Gender issues are a big, you know, they obviously do come up when it comes to humanitarian efforts. But again, that's not the only thing we should be concerned about. We should be concerned about also, you know, giving medicine to the people and hopefully breaking down certain cultural barriers and talking to certain religious leaders and convincing them that we're not here to harm them and this is not a imperialist invasion of Western culture upon their society. You know, those kinds of issues are also secular humanist issues. It's not just a gender thing. You know, gender element certainly does take part in it, but again, it's much broader when it comes to helping humanity. And humanitarian efforts is not the only thing I like. I take pleasure in getting involved with. Environmental issues are a very big concern for me too, but I'd say the human element is the most concern to me, because I think secular humanism is the forefront. You know, I like people, I really do, and it's one of the biggest things for me. So that's my views, and that's exactly why don't really call myself a feminist. It's not necessarily, you know, I understand that there's concerns for men as they are for women. And in the previous video, I did say that I do side with the men's rights activists a lot, because there are some issues that are very biased against men in our country, and we need to resolve them with getting rid of archaic laws and fitting it with modern society. You know, we can't just depend on one pillar of law, which is tradition, to dictate that. We need to change the law. So that's what needs to happen, and I don't think it's just a men's issue. You know, I would hope that women got involved too. You know, and that's another thing I don't like about feminism, is like for women by women. And I don't like that philosophy, because it's like saying, well, what if I wanted to support only white males? And it's for white males by white males. You know, that seems to me not only limiting, but I think it's the wrong approach. You know, aside from being human, there isn't really any cultural differences between, I mean, there are cultural differences between, like, for example, the black and the Hispanic communities and so on. But the one element that's consistent is the human element. I mean, we're all human. We all have our own set of values and customs and so on, and that should be able to translate regardless of what gender or race you are. So that's why I call myself a secular humanist. I don't think it should be about race or gender or, you know, sexual preference or whatever. Secular humanism is to encompass all those values. So on the basis of reason and scientific inquiry and so on, you know, instead of some fantasy about, you know, religious dogma and so on. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, favorite it, and comment on it, and please subscribe. Thank you.